Hello and welcome to this edition of the Ham Radio Guy podcast. You'll find that this one's a little different. I actually went live with this podcast first over on YouTube, and I've downloaded the audio for this version to show up on Podbean with the listeners that may not watch me on YouTube. So this is a little different than what I've done in the past, but I wanted to give you a heads up if you found the audio or something a little different. I did have a couple issues with some audio in there. You might hear a couple of second pause of some sort, but it does work and does continue on. So anyway, thank you for joining on this edition of the podcast, episode number 64, where we are talking about emergency power for amateur radio.
Looking for top quality cables that you can trust? ABR Industries has you covered. Proudly American built and reliable, ABR Industries delivers premium coax cable and connectors for all your communication needs. Whether you're a ham radio operator, work in broadcast, or manage critical infrastructure, ABR ensures that you are connected when it matters most.
And it has such tremendously different characteristics.
From static to clarity, ABR products. Built tough, built here, built for you. ABR Industries. American built and reliable. Visit abrind.com today and experience the strength of superior connectivity. It's the only coax here in the W0MET Ham Shack. Use code SAVE10 Ham Radio Guy. ABR Industries, where reliability meets performance. Let's get the show started. Welcome back, and here we are once again with the Ham Radio Guy podcast, and I just want to say I'm broadcasting from the W0MET studios. I'm Marvin, and my call sign is W0MET, and I'm glad you're here with us as we get ready for even more radio adventures. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or a longtime listener of the show, I want to say thank you. I know my podcast continues to grow over there. We're over 20,000 downloads now, and I greatly appreciate that as well. So I know in the first part of it, we're getting a little rough start here to this show, but I had some audio issues, and then my mic was muted there for a moment. So, but we're getting along. So before we jump in, I just want to say a shout out to Dakota Lithium. I know I push them a lot. But I'm going to give you a quick story. It's absolutely just God's honest truth. It had a 20 amp hour battery. Let's see if I can actually have it right here still. So you might be able to see this show up on the screen. And it is their 20 amp hour, 12 volt lithium battery here. And of course, my green screen is going to block this a little bit. But this is the Dakota amp hour battery. It's got the little dial on top that tells you what the voltage of the battery is. And this thing was not taking a charge for some reason. And I literally called up Dakota Lithium, and because they have that amazing 11-year warranty, they replaced it, no question. So I got a new one on the way. They're a little bit on back order, so it'll probably be the beginning of November when I get it here. But, that thing's been through the freezing cold, the sweltering heat. It's been through a little bit of rain, and they have just never let me down. So that's the first time I've had an issue in 3 years with their battery. And I had somebody the other day complaining. It's like, oh, my battery's 4 years old and it's a LiPo battery. And it's like, these things should handle 3,000 to 5,000 charges. And it's like, yeah, it probably can. But, what are you going to do with the battery now? You're just going to toss it? Yeah. Because they, get 11-year warranty. They don't have that 11-year warranty behind them. So I truly do stand behind Dakota Lithium. I think they're great. And, again, it might be a loose cell or it could just be a bad cell went bad in there. Hey, you know what? And that's susceptible to anything we have, no matter what type of gear we have. If something like that could very well happen. So they're not perfect, but they do stand behind their products. And I can appreciate that for all means. So if you're looking for that dependable, long-lasting power, check out Dakota Lithium at dakotalithium.com. Use the code TheHamRadioGuy at checking out for a discount, and you'll find a link in the show notes. And, you can also support the podcast by checking out any of the affiliate links that are always in the show notes or description of the video over at patreon.com/the Ham Radio Guy. You can support me there as well. And, it really does help keep this content coming and growing this community for the Patreon side of the channel. and trying to bring you more gear reviews, tips, and ham radio inspirations with new products and other items. And I do have a Power Film. It's not exactly 100% new, but it's still, if it's been used once for the guy that had it, I'd be surprised. But, I'd say it's, pretty great shape overall. So with that, let's go into a little bit of the newsroom. As part of a broader effort to eliminate nearly 400 obsolete wireless regulations, the Federal Communications Commission has proposed deleting or modifying 4 minor provisions within Part 97, which obviously this will affect us because we are governed under Part 97 and the amateur radio service. So according to ARRL's Washington Council, the proposed deletions are strictly administrative and will have no effect on today's amateur radio operations. In fact, one of the rule deletions originally suggested by the ARRL during an earlier FCC request for public input on outdated regulations. The proposals include Part 97.27, which duplicates the FCC's authority to modify station licenses already covered under Section 316 of the Communications Act. 97.29, a rule describing how to replace paper licenses unnecessary since they no longer issue those licenses, and they have not since 2020. Part 97.315B2, a long expired provision concerning HF amplifiers manufactured or purchased before April 28, 1978. Probably not using those much anymore. And 97.521B, Appendix 2, which outlined an outdated volunteer examiner coordinator VEC boundaries that no longer apply in today's environment of remote testing. So those are the few minor changes that have been made to modernize the Part 97 and streamline and clarify wireless communications regulations. So I think that will help with the, under the current radio landscape of where we're at. And I'm sure things will continue to change as we, modify things within the amateur radio service down the road. And technology changes as well for us. The one other thing I did find, that I found this in several different news sources, a record-breaking attendance at the 2025 North Star Radio Convention. Something I'd be interested in, being in former Minnesota. Myself, I lived there for many years. The Hempton Technical College campus in Brooklyn Park hosted more than 250 attendees at the new record for the North Star Radio Convention. Now it's third year. The event also served as a 2025 ARRL Minnesota State Convention, marking a major milestone for the state's amateur radio community. Program manager Dale Henninger, W0DHZ, told Newsline the convention was successfully revived the tradition of statewide amateur radio conventions in Minnesota, something the community had been without for more than 2 decades. Organized by the Minnesota Amateur Radio Consortium with support from 11 local clubs, the convention featured a transmitter hunt, a QRP QSO party, a Get on the Air station, and 25 educational sessions covering a wide range of topics. So hopefully that event will help strengthen Minnesota's amateur radio community and inspire the next generation of operators as well to be a part of that. So that sounds like been a really great event. And I like to know what we're starting to see more of. Kind of a score moment that's into the news here with the release date of September 23rd, 2025. But where I was going with that a second ago was we're starting to see more clubs combine together, become one organization. Tennessee has something like this going. Oklahoma, I think, has something like this going. We've seen 11 clubs come together. And I know there are several Hamfest out there that also have that they get different clubs together to make one bigger Hamfest for those events to help them out. So anyway, but I think that's a great thing to have. All right, well, let's continue moving on here. That's not the one I was for. There we go. Now time for the Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week, where Rick tells us the joke. The Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week is brought to you by Ham Radio Prep. Now here is Rick Garrett, N9 GSU, with today's Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week.
I used to get shocked whenever I touched my radio. Well, I grounded it, and needless to say, that fixed the problem. I'm ecstatic.
This has been the Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett, N9 GSU. Turn in next week for another joke from Rick. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not joke of the day. All right. Well, I feel terrible. That's thank you, Eric, for the text message. I'm glad you were watching. I didn't realize I thought I hit the unmute button on the afterwards, and we'll have to cut that portion of the audio out of the video. But I forgot I hit my mute button. It didn't take, unfortunately. I didn't hit it, and so thank you, Eric, for that message and saying that to me. I guess you didn't hear my phone ring after all if my button was muted. So I'll go back into after the joke of the day, I was saying I hope you guys appreciate that. Leave a comment in the chat if you do. And I really appreciate that. I know they're a little corny, but I do greatly love them for some reason. I'm big on dad jokes. So we're going to go back and start over here. I guess part of doing a live stream, it's again, the second one, trying to figure some of it out, but emergency power for amateur radio. That's our topic of the day. And, again, it's the fun times of learning to go live and those things happen. So, but what I started to say is we have emergency plans, and we talked about that a little bit in September, and being prepared for emergencies. But really, we're talking about emergency power and what that runs. So, I've got a 100 amp hour battery behind me at Dakota Lithium, and I use that as my battery backup for the shack here. So if things go down, I still got power to run all my other devices into a rig runner. And so, when disasters strike, whatever that might be for you, it could be a hurricane, earthquake, wildfire, flood, any one of those events. One of the first things that always goes is power and communication. And, that's when power lines fail, the cell towers go down, internet connections will vanish, your modems go offline, things like that. And you don't have that power anymore. And so, what do you do at this point? So, in these critical moments, amateur radio operators are usually the ones that become the lifeline, and they can bridge that gap between chaos and coordination. And so you have to be prepared yourself to be able to do that. And if you aren't prepared, then, what do you do? So, if you don't have the power, your radio is just a box of silence, basically. And that's why you need to have an emergency power plan. And knowing how to operate your rig is important as well. But, having power is going to be your first line of defense in making it work for that disaster. So we're going to dive into your emergency power preparedness and what every ham really should know to keep their station on the air when the grid goes down. And a lot of us have probably gone out and done POTA, and we do backup power. But, one of the things I may mention again later, but it's, do you have your battery backups? So you have your different Biomo batteries and Dakota Lithium batteries and other battery you bought from Amazon. But, if you're not using it and it's just sitting there, do you keep it charged? You should charge it about every 2 months as a practice, just to make sure it's topped off, because the lithium phosphate batteries will lose some of their juice over time. So you got to make sure it's topped off, and you can't say, well, I'll be fine. It's no big deal. Because again, you won't have that power when you really need it. So we're going to start with the basics here. Amateur radio, the one big advantage, again, it doesn't depend on a centralized network. We are all independent operators when we're operating, and when everything else fails, we can still communicate across the board. And that's been, discussed and said, hundreds of times, thousands of times. And we can, send emails via RF, and we can provide situational updates. We can, help coordinate other relief efforts as we do, many times throughout the year across the world. Amateur radio gets involved, and they're involved with organizations like ARES and RACES, and all, maybe just Oxcom, emergency communications. I just saw something in the news that, a group was putting amateur radio into their emergency communications plan. So, that's good to have. So will you have power when the lights go out? So that's the first thing we need to understand. So before you stock up on batteries and go buy a generator or anything, we need to figure out what your capability of what you actually power you need. How much is your ICOM 7300 taking for power? How much is your 705 taking for power? What do you have an FTDX 5000? So what is the radio you have? And, we can usually say that, you've got probably maybe SWR meter. You might have an amplifier. You might have a tuner. You might have a computer. You have, any number of other things you might be throwing in there. Your computer versus maybe a laptop. You may be using that as your backup instead. So a typical 100 watt HF transceiver will draw 20 to 25 amps during a transmit. Your handheld, maybe 1 or 2. And if you have a few LED lights you might need for the background, for lighting, you can start to get a sense of your load of what you need. Then, you need to ask yourself, okay, if I've got, this much wattage or amperage that I'm taking up that I need to have, how long do I need to operate for? Is it going to be days, hours, weeks, until the grid comes back on? And if, once you know that, you can start to calculate how much battery power capacity you'll need. So there's a lot of calculations you need to be able to figure that out. I'll try and provide some links in the description for some tools that can help you with that. I know there's a great app out there. I can't pull it off my phone right off the top of the moment, but that's something you start to, need to understand first, is how much draw you're going to have to, calculate the amount of battery power you're going to need. So, first up, we'll talk about some batteries first. There's different types of batteries out there. We've got lead acid, we've got the AGM, the LiFePO batteries, and batteries are pretty quiet, portable, reliable. LiPo batteries are probably the most popular now, just because they're so lightweight. I mean, they just have no weight to them whatsoever. They can, discharge as well, deeper without damage. And so, the downside of these, when they're drained, you need a way to recharge them. So we will be talking about solar power. That's a great segue to our next topic. Solar power, but I do recommend LiPo batteries as your first choice. And they're easy, lightweight, and good to use. But how you're going to charge that battery? Does it have a Bino battery that has a DC plug on it? Does it have a Anderson power pole on it? Does it just have the spades like the Dakota Lithiums do? So if you have a 100 amp hour battery, maybe you're using a 60 or a 20 amp hour battery. You need to know how long it's going to take to recharge that battery back to full. If it goes down, and obviously solar is going to be only during the day. What if it's a cloudy day? Things like that. So solar is the really the go-to for long-term grid down operations, because it can keep your batteries up, and it's certainly renewable. It's quiet. It pairs perfectly with most battery banks, but you'll need that solar controller as well to go in between there. But like a single 100 watt panel can recharge a 50 amp hour battery in a day, probably under really good conditions. Adding more panels or a solar generator, if you want to have more gear, having something like an OOPS or OOPS, I'm not sure, OUPES, the anchors, Dakota Lithium, they all got these, big, 2 or 3, couple 100 watt hour, amp hour, battery, power boxes now. Think of like Jackeries, but twice the size. So a lot of people can use them, and they're really great. Some people are using them with just their campers and RVs now as those big big boxes that can be recharged with a simple solar panel. And then we have our option for gas or sometimes propane powered generators, and while they can provide that high power output right away and recharge anything you need, but they can also power your camper, your RV, your trailer, maybe your house, your refrigerator, all depending on how big and much you got or what you want to do. But have you determined what your needs are just for that grid down emergency? Do you need to power your freezer, your refrigerator, those sort of things? But again, we're more worried about just the radios here in this situation today. But, generators are great for, base stations, but they can be noisy. I've got a Champion generator and it's kind of noisy on the 20-meter band. And I'm looking to switch it out for probably one of the Hondas because I understand they don't have that issue. The other thing is, you need for fuel. If it comes down to it, we've all seen the lines through storms like hurricanes where the line to get into a gas station is an hour long. So, is gasoline going to be your best option for a generator at that point? You may want to do propane, but obviously propane runs out. Can you go get propane somewhere? Do you have multiple bottles of propane? And so, they may not be the ideal for every situation, but it all depends what your, timing is and how long that power may be down. Some even may need a inverter generator. So you could go that route. They're a little quieter and they usually produce pretty clean power, safe for electronics equipments as well. And so that might be an option. Vehicle power, like the F-150s now come with a 110 standard volt that is, in the back of the truck. So you can plug in an extension cord and power your vehicle off of that. If you have like the F-150 Lightning or something like that, where you can actually power your whole house off of the F-150 Lightning. I don't want to go buy a battery powered truck, but if you had that, that might be something you could probably do. But just remember, you have to keep that vehicle idling, and that wastes a lot of fuel in your truck as well. So if you have to get up and leave and go somewhere and need to go long haul or get away from an area, you may be low on fuel. And so, that may be the case too. So if you don't have it idling, then that's just going to drain your battery. So always be cautious of those sort of things. We had a family event back in August, and they had let the kids inside the vehicle with the air conditioner running, and they just let it sit there and idle for a while so the kids could go inside out of the heat, and they ran out of gas. So, I don't know how much gas they had in there originally, but still, you've got those things that happen like that. So the other alternative, probably not very feasible for most of us, and that's going to be the wind and alternative sources. In certain environments that may work, but really not very practical for most of us. But there is, some people may have that option out there. You want to make sure you have your station set up to match and fit your situation. What I'm saying is, if you're in an urban apartment, you can go light, and a portable 20 or 50 amp hour battery may be perfect for you. For a handheld or a mobile rig, a foldable solar panel would probably go a long ways at this point if you're in that one. If you're in a suburban or country area, 100 amp hour might be enough. It might not be enough. If you're in a suburb somewhere, 100 amp hour might do okay with some type of solar panel, or maybe a small inverter generator for some type of backup. But just be aware of that. And if you're in the country, you may need something more because you may need that generator to power your well or something like that as well. So those are things, that might be essential for kind of the living. So you may need a couple sources. You may need a battery backup for the radios, a generator for the well, you might need a second generator just for doing your freezer. So who knows what you got there. I've seen where you've had generators you hook up to tractors and they run on a PTO shaft. So you might have that as well. So anything is possible there. And it's just how creative you want to get. For, anybody that's being deployed for like an Aries or some type of racy setup, what do you have in your go kit? 20 amp hour battery is probably sufficient most of the time. Some type of, DC cable with a solar panel available to you, and a lightweight antenna setup. I mean, literally pack this in a Apache 500 or a 5800 case, and you could probably fit it all in there. I don't have the solar panel down here, but I did pick up a Power Film one from a friend and had it for sale. And I'm excited about kind of doing a little bit of a video series on some solar panels. I've got a battery back here to my right that is on the low side, and it's not quite down all the way, but I'll probably drain a little bit more. But I want to charge that battery and one other in a comparison of using a Power Film versus some other panel. with the exact same solar controller. I've got two of the exact same solar controllers, and see how long it takes to charge those batteries and top them off. The biggest problem I have here at this property here in Massachusetts is that I have trees all the way around me. And I mean, literally 360. And so my shade through the day is very, very limited. So I may see if I can put a little bit of a ladder on the roof and lay them up on the roof, because that's about the best place I get to get my solar coming in. And so we'll see what that comes out to be, but I might try that. Well, let's just take a quick break here, but don't go anywhere. We've got more to talk about on not remote operations. I'm sorry, on emergency power. Right after this word from Ham Radio Prep. Ham Radio Prep, your fast track to getting licensed and on the air. That may be limited right now because of the FCC being down, but it's never a better time to start getting your license if you haven't done so already, or if you want to upgrade. Go ahead and check out Ham Radio Prep. Whether you're a brand new amateur radio operator or looking to upgrade, Ham Radio Prep makes it easy. And their online courses are FCC approved, mobile friendly, and designed to help you pass and earn your license. So if you've never touched a radio before, they have some great courses out there to help you with that as well. And thousands of hams already used Ham Radio Prep, and I personally recommend them. I know James and the team over there at Ham Radio Prep and World Radio League, they would be happy to reach out to you. And they do have a money back guarantee. So if you don't pass your license on the first time, that you can get your money back. So I don't know of any other course or program that is willing to do that or could do that for you. And I know that it is a good program to go with. So don't wait, get licensed and get on the air and join the amateur radio community, as with many of us, and with Ham Radio Prep. And you can find a link in the show notes, and you can also use my discount code to save yourself like 10% over there. So well worth it for that. So I hope that you will take some time and go get your license or do an upgrade if you haven't done so already. All right. Well, welcome back to the Ham Radio Guy. I'm excited to have you listening here. And before we continue the discussion again on emergency power, I'd like to give a quick shout out to all the Patreon supporters. We've had a few new ones join on the free side over there. And you guys do, even though you're joining free, you do help continue to make this podcast possible, and hope that you'll consider a paid membership to the Patreon channel. And be sure to follow me over on social media for Twitter. For the latest updates, exclusive content, and peek behind the scenes on more Patreon stuff that I do post that doesn't come out to the YouTube channel sometimes. So I think that will be good for you to be able to see some of those things as well. So now we're going to get back to our regular scheduled programming. And this will be the fourth segment we're going to go into, and that's staying ready. Again, I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's not really, set it and forget it. We need to continue to keep those batteries powered up and testing batteries regularly. Run your generators once a month, and keep your solar gear clean and dry, things like that. So, I've known people come out to field day, they fired up the generator, and we have spent, an hour, 2 hours messing with it, trying to get it to run because they didn't use it since the field day the year before. And so, that's no good. The other part of that is I saw on a channel the other day, someone hadn't updated apps on their channel, and they had issues in getting it out and doing something. And so, if you have your computer with programs, again, it's not just, hey, I download the program, I've got it, and it's good to go. Those apps, those software subscriptions continue to have updates, like World Radio League and other things that you have for logging. And, they will continue to push out updates all the time. And so just like, checking your generator or checking your battery and topping them off every month or two, make sure your apps and things are updated as well. Store lithium batteries, again, about 50% of charge. Check them every few months. Again, they do go down and drop charge occasionally. Keeping your fuel fresh and your gas and propane. Propane will leak out of a bottle from time to time. I know I've lost about 3 or 4% this past year on my one bottle I have that I keep available for myself. And so, you need to keep that topped off occasionally too. And fuel nowadays, it's just kind of crap. If you don't put a stabilizer in it, you're not using it regularly. I would not trust it to put it in my generator. I do run my generators on propane because I don't have to mess with that whole fuel issue being in the bowl and carburetor being clogged and things like that. So it may not be quite as efficient on the propane side as it is with using a fuel, but I do have a fuel for backup when I need it, and I can use it if I have to, but I prefer not to. Your generator, when you're operating that, do you have to operate it on high? Can you operate in a low or mid, possibly, and keeping the idle down a little bit more? And if you're operating at, your 100 watts, can you operate at 50 or 75 and save yourself a little bit of power? Things to think about as well. Can you use a digital mode, which might use less power, like WinLink or JS8 call? And, if you're not needing to use the generator because you're on battery backup right now, don't keep the generator sitting there running unless it needs to be charging something or maybe it's powering the RV. But if it don't need to be in use, shut it down. If you're not using a laptop for some reason, shut it down. You can save yourself and conserve yourself any way you can for power and your consumption that you might be using during that time of disaster. I'm pretty meticulous type person. Like if I don't have to have lights on in the house during the day, I keep very few lights on when I'm here. And so, I try and conserve that power and obviously if having the lights on, I've got to run more electricity. It costs me more money every month. So, being, trying cheap and frugal, like all the other hams are, that's what I do. So that's, you got to just make sure you stay ready for everything and have things available. In fact, I'm doing some changing up of a couple bags for things that, I have a bag with a handheld in it and everything ready to go. But do I have it in my bug out bag per se? No, I don't. I don't have it in there. So I'm moving that whole little 511 or Maxpedition case I've got, whatever what it is, over to that bag to be ready. When I need to just grab that backpack and go because I've got a situation or something, I've got all my emergency supplies in that bag. So I'll be doing a video on that. I'm still doing a few things I'm adding to that bag as my kind of my staying ready series. But I think it's coming along and it's almost there. The next thing, segment 5, and this will be our final segment here. Real world proof. So history is showing how vital preparedness can be, and I guess it's a great segment here. During Hurricane Maria, hams kept Puerto Rico connected when all other communications failed. At the Nepal earthquake, operators relayed life-saving messages from remote villages. During countless California wildfires, amateur radio provided the only link between shelters, medical personnel, emergency managers. Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, amateur radio operators kept in contact with others who didn't have any communication. And in every case, power was the deciding factor between silence and service. And so, knowing what your power factor is, that I said in the very beginning of what how much usage you need for your amps being used. Let's see, I have it right here. So I don't know how many people see my green screen again. It's going to block this a little bit, but there we go. So I've got one of these Kleins, and it's got the amp, clamp on it. And if you don't have one of these, this is really nice to have too. And it can kind of tell you, you can put a whole circle of wires in there. It'll tell you what your amps are and stuff being used. And I really like this tool. This is my power meter I use every day here on the desk. But it's a tool. It's a great little tool to have too. And so I like that one. I can leave a link in the show notes for that. So anyway, so here's my final takeaway with this. Being ready means more than just owning a radio. It means more than, just having power when the grid goes down. How do you get yourself prepared? You need to make sure you've got good batteries, Dakota Lithium. Learn your solar setup. I've got that new power film I just talked about, but it's got a Aptiv, APTIV, I think that's how it's pronounced, Aptiv connector on it. And I don't have anything with an Aptiv connector. It's a 2-pin connector I need for it. So in fact, I told you that was why Power Film was calling me earlier. May have been muted for just a second when that happened. But, I need to have the right connector. So that solar panel right now is absolutely useless to me because I don't have the proper cables for it. Again, got brand new from a friend, got it in today. So he did not send that connector with me. So I have to, figure that out for myself. And so, maintain your generator. Most importantly, test your gear before you need it. I know I've had issues at field day before. I did a whole test this past winter field day, thought I was good. Everything was working. Get to winter field day, I just can't get to work. It just failure right after one after another. So, that's why we do those things. I had a failure this past weekend with logging on my MacBook. I go to open the World Radio League offline version. I download the app, and I'm out in the middle of a park. I have no cell service. I have one bar, basically no cell service, and I had to use another app to log with, which again, it was not working properly either. But I couldn't get the radio interface to work with it. But I was able to at least log my contacts and get it to work. So. Which was good, but that's why we do those things. And so, final thing here is that, because when the noise floor goes silent and the world goes dark, it might be your signal powered by the battery or a bit of sunlight that might get you through. So that's what you need to think about. And that's where you need to go. Well, that is, all I've got in regards to emergency power. So I hope this is helpful for you. Something to think about. I hope that you will enjoy this and take something away from this that will be valuable in trying to figure out what your power is for your shack. I need to do a little bit more of mine because I've added some things and subtracted things over time. And I don't have a clue right now what that number is. I'll be honest. I just don't. I haven't had time to sit down and figure that out. And I just know I had 100 amp hours and that battery is going to, survive me for a good day worth of use. And I do have the availability to be able to run a cord out the door, out my port to get a solar panel. But again, solar panels on this property are at best, because I just don't have, I have so many trees around me. So that creates a little bit of a headache for me in that regards for a battery backup if I need it. But I do get some solar, just wouldn't have a lot. And is my cord long enough to really go up on the roof with that if I need it? Probably not at this point. So anyway, I have some deficiencies myself. I will admit it. I'm no denying that. And that's why we continue to work and strive on those things and make it better for being prepared when the time comes, and hopefully sooner than later. So again, big thank you out to all the Patreon supporters for making a Ham Radio Guy podcast possible. And if you're looking for all things ham radio, visit me over at patreon.com/the Ham Radio Guy and stay in the loop by joining a favorite conversation over on Twitter and, following the latest tips, trends, things I'll try and post on a regular basis. And a couple other things I want to finish off with here. Check out the Adel Aurora Hamfest schedule or Hamfest near you. They usually have the best ones, but HamCon for Colorado is coming up October 23rd through 26th. If you're in Colorado or nearby Colorado, that will be held in Grand Junction, Colorado this weekend. And so that would be a probably decent Hamfest to go to. And so that'll be the Rocky Mountain Division Convention, if I didn't mention that. So special event stations. I thought I did one this past week. I thought it was pretty cool. It was for Bigfoot out of the Tacoma Amateur Radio Club in Tacoma, Washington. They were doing a series on Bigfoot, and there was like 7 or 8 stations. I was able to get the bonus station, but I did not get in on that event early enough. So one of those things I will be sharing more often about is the special event stations on this channel instead of a lot of Hamfest for now. More Hamfest will come around the world, but we'll as the season starts back up in February with Hamcation. But in the meantime, there's always lots of special event stations out there, and I enjoy working special events. I really do. That's one of my fun things I enjoy getting on and trying to make contact with them. So on October 26th, which is this coming Saturday, I believe, or Sunday, the War of the W0W, War of the Worlds, special event station will be taking place. So you can find more information out online about that. And then the other one will be October 31st. This is called the Boo Event, special event station out of North Carolina. And they will be doing a live event from a graveyard in North Carolina. So you might hear all the eerie things going on there with the graveyard special event station. So I think that's kind of cool that they're doing that one. And that's from 1300 Zulu to 0500 Zulu, WA4 TRS, if you're checking that out. And, I think that's kind of cool that they're going to do it from live from a graveyard. So might be very interesting. And I understand they're going to be on multiple bands, so you should be able to find them fairly easy. Now, the biggest thing I left for news at the very end here is I hope that you will join me on this Thursday, October 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Join me here, W0MET, live on YouTube for a special conversation with Bob Ronk, a seasoned operator and member of the Bouvet Island D Expedition. I will be the host of the Ham Shack TV, replacing Josh Marlett for WX with his show. And we'll be diving into one of the most talked about adventures in the world of amateur radio, the Bouvet Island D Expedition. Often called the most isolated island in the world, Bouvet sits deep in the South Atlantic Ocean. I mean, almost far down to the Antarctica as you can go. And making a contact from there is a true badge of honor for any DXer. Bob will share behind the scenes of what it looks like to plan, execute, and operate from such remote and unforgiving location. From battling rough seas to the keeping equipment running in extreme conditions, you hear about the logistics, the gear, the teamwork that makes these rare activations possible. So whether you're an experienced DX chaser or just curious about what drives hams to the ends of the earth in pursuit of that elusive contact, this episode you won't want to miss. So mark your calendars to tune in to Ham Shack TV Thursday night, October 23rd. I think that's it might be 24th, at 8 p.m. Eastern to join me as the host, and we'll be asking any questions that come around for that. So I'm just going to double check the calendar real quick and make sure that is it is the 23rd. So yes, we'll be doing that. So that's Ham Shack TV, where the adventures of amateur radio will come to life on that show. And then I will be also the host the following week. We'll be doing the Frequencies of Fear, and you'll learn a little bit about the creepy things you hear on the air sometimes and what some of those things are, or how you can find out where to listen to those creepy things are. So anyway, that's it for this episode of the Ham Radio Guy. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this conversation. Don't forget to share your thoughts, questions, stories, email me or connect with me. If you have a topic you'd like to be able to have covered, or something you want to, if you want to be a special guest on the show, please let me know. I'd be glad to have you. Always looking for new content. And, that's what we want to continue to strive to do, is bringing the best of all this for you. We've had a few struggles through this episode with some audio issues. I'll have to go back and kind of edit those little sections out of the YouTube probably, that I had to go back and kind of, thanks for Eric again for letting me know about my mic. I would have hated to record the whole show and not have any audio, but thank you for joining. I've got 4 concurrent viewers here watching this live episode. So thank you for joining me here on this, and hope that, you'll join me again. Till next time, 73, happy hamming, keep the antennas high, the signal strong, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Ham Radio Guy. Thanks for joining.